You're watching KPBP, your streaming video channel in the Midwest.
Boom, 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 boom.
What do you say we take a step back to the old neighborhood? If you remember the old neighborhood, you knew the best joints with the best food. The corner bar with that great burger. Ribs at the barbecue joint. Every neighborhood had that one pizza joint down the street that had the best pizza ever. You want a good plate of spaghetti and meatballs? Or some linguine with clams? You knew just the place to go. There was even that one place up the road that had the real chef, the white tablecloths and fancy menu place. But even that was in the neighborhood, so that was where you went for special occasions. I grew up in one of those old neighborhood joints and worked in a few more. Let me take you back. I'll show you some real food made with real friends and enjoyed with real friends. This is Old Neighborhood Cooking.
Welcome to episode 3 of Old Neighborhood Cooking. Today we're doing sometimes referred to as Italian chili. This is pasta Cece, pasta with Cece beans, and we use the Garbanzo beans, we use tomatoes. It's a soup, kind of a chili. It's a very thick soup or a very thin chili. I'm not sure which. Wonderful for cold days. It'd be excellent for a hunter's camp if you had something like that going on. It's a very simple dish. This is one my grandmother made me, Nonna Schiavi, Ma Schiavi. Ma used to make this, and I would sit and I'd eat bowl after bowl on those cold winter days after school when I was a kid. You're gonna love this one, and it's simple. It starts with ground pork. I have often ground my own pork with good cubes that I trim real well, and I'll put it into a food processor. We'll also use carrot, celery, garlic, and onion with this. Crushed tomatoes and garbanzo beans, just plain garbanzo beans out of the can. This is all chopped together, and the trick is to try to get it minced real close. So you'll see me use a knife that's very special. It's called an ulu. Since I don't have a food processor, this is the next best thing. This is a gift that was brought to me by one of my best friends who came back from Alaska and said, "I got something for you. It's the ulu." I didn't understand it at first, but boy does it work wonders. You'll see that in a minute. We're gonna chop everything up, we're gonna brown everything up, and you'll see me as I make pasta Cece. This is Ma Schiavi's recipe. Okay, so now I've just begun, and you can see how quickly it chops. We've got the little bit of red onion, we've got the celery. This is making kind of a sofrito. I'm also going to add the carrots into this. Okay, so I have my Dutch kettle, and I'm using a non-stick kettle that's always easiest so that we don't burn things. I'm going to start off by heating up just a little bit of olive oil. We don't need much, we just don't want it to burn. And we're going to let that get to a point where it becomes shimmery and it starts to put a little bit of smoke up. And then we're going to add our vegetables. Now these are those vegetables that I cut with that special knife that Dave gave me. When they start to soften, you'll start to smell, doesn't that smell wonderful? And then we're going to bring in our meat and we'll brown that up. And so now I have some ground pork. My friend Mike, the butcher at Southside Meats, is the guy who does my ground meats for me. He does a wonderful job. So this is the ground pork. It's very nice, good lean pork. I'm just going to break it up, stir it, and cook the pork with the aromatic vegetables. Okay, so it's been a few minutes. It's starting to brown. We don't want to get it too brown, but we want it to brown a little bit. When you caramelize it, you get a lot better flavor. It'll continue to brown, but at this point, I'm going to season the pasta cece. And of course, it's with some salt, some pepper, and I'll probably put a lot more in before the day's up. I'm going to have a little bit of oregano. Oregano is just a classic, basic Italian seasoning. We have dry parsley, so I'll add some parsley to it. We're going to let this cook just a little bit. Oh, those smells start to come up when you start to add everything to the browning meat. And that garlic and the onion and the celery, everything is starting to get good. So, now what we're going to do is add tomatoes. The tomatoes I use are Red Gold, a good American tomato. You don't need to get a good imported tomato for this one. And I get the crushed tomatoes. Sometimes I'll get a whole tomato and crush it by hand. But we're just going to add a whole can of tomatoes. And when that starts to get hot, we're going to cover it and let this simmer for a while. All right, so as you can see, it's cooking up real good, nice and thick. Ma Schiavi would be proud of me for her pasta cece. And we're not making too much of a mess on Rich and Kathy Thompson's stove, which is a plus because I'm the one who has to clean it. So now what we're going to do is add our cece beans. These are called Garbanzo beans or cece beans. I'll open the can and drain that juice, but then I'm not going to rinse it. Some people like to rinse their cece beans, and that takes a lot of the flavor off. There's an awful lot of flavor, good protein, and it's a very unique flavor. So we're going to add this to our chili. Let this cook. Now you can see, if you could smell how good this is, the entire house smells wonderful. We're just going to let this come to a point where it starts to sizzle. And then we're going to add our liquid. I use an unsalted chicken base, chicken stock. And the reason I use the unsalted is I want to control the salt, and you never know what you're getting with the boxes or the jars of chicken base. Often salt is the top ingredient. And we don't want that. We want to control it. We want to make the flavor. And if Ma Schiavi caught me doing this, she'd probably slap me across the face. Because she used to make her own stock. But that would take hours and days, and I'm trying to make this simple, but this is the way we would have it in the old neighborhood. So I'm going to add enough to feed. Well, here we have 4 big hungry guys. I want to make sure that we have enough to feed 4 to 6 people. If we have any left over, it heats up well for lunch tomorrow. It'll even taste better for lunch tomorrow. And once I add all this in, now I'm going to let this simmer. I will adjust the seasonings, and then we're going to cook ditalini noodles. Those are small little tubular noodles, and we will put the noodles into the soup, let the whole thing get hot, and then we'll be ready. Mangia, mangia. Good. Okay, so our pasta cece has been cooking for about 20 minutes. It's come to a nice rolling boil, and at this point I'm going to taste it to adjust the seasonings. So I'll take my spoon, almost perfect. Needs a little bit of salt, just a little more pepper, and then we're going to finish it off with some grated Parmigiano Reggiano. You don't need a lot, just enough to thicken it and put that really good Italian flavor into it. So I just grate a little Parmigiano Reggiano. I'm going to let this simmer for just a minute, and I'm going to add my noodles. Now I've cooked ditalini noodles according to directions, and without rinsing them, I just drained them. Now I'm going to add the ditalini to the pasta Cece. And this is the pasta part of the pasta Cece. The Cece beans, of course, is the Cece part. You can add as much as you like. Now, when we didn't have a lot of money, but we needed a lot of food, we added a lot more pasta. Me now, I've learned to kind of balance it out a little bit. Right here is about good. So you can see the pasta. You're going to get pasta with every bite that you have. You're going to get Cece beans with every bite that you have. You're going to get pork. You're going to get all the flavorings. What I'm going to do is put some of that Parmesan cheese on the table so that as we serve it, add a little Parmesan cheese, and that's going to be the end. It's going to be wonderful. Then, manja manja. So here we are. This is episode 3, Pasta con Cece, from Old Neighborhood Cooking. Join us next time. And gentlemen, manja manja and cendano, 100 years of good luck. Salud. Salud. Good stuff, huh? Isn't that good? Oh, yeah.
Just because she is so nice, Angelina. Angelina, the waitress at the pizzeria. I super minestrone just to be with her alone, Angelina. Angelina, the waitress at the pizzeria.
You're watching KPBP, your streaming video channel in the Midwest.
Old Neighborhood Cooking is a production of KPBP TV, Midwest Stream TV. Old Neighborhood Cooking is brought to you by Doc's Drugstore. Old-fashioned fun in a nostalgic atmosphere. Captain Hank's Fine Seafoods. Fresh from the Great Lakes, Captain Hank's. Cups. Your ideas brought to life. Think cups when you think cups. Knives Are Us. When you're the sharpest knife in the kit, you're it. Diver Dave's Deep Dive Charters. If it's getting deep, it must be Dave. Tommy Gunz Adventure Vacations. Corporate team building, reunions, or retreats. Your adventure awaits. Old Neighborhood Cooking is made possible by a grant from the GFP Relax Foundation and viewers like you.
You're watching KPBP, your streaming video channel in the Midwest. Wake Up with Qigong, weekdays on KPBP. You're watching KPBP, your streaming video channel in the Midwest.